All right. Yeah, welcome everybody. Today I'll be chatting to Amanda Gifford. She is a drama therapist, and recently I attended one of her family constellations sessions. She's been working with family constellations for the last 20 years and has a great source of knowledge on the subject matter. So thank you, Amanda, for this beautiful opportunity and welcome.
Cool, David. Thank you. It was lovely to have you at the workshop, and it was a great workshop. And we were going to do a bit of social media there, but it didn't really quite work out that way. So now we get to chat a little bit.
Amazing. Yeah. And I guess really we just wanting to tell this story and explain what exactly is family constellations and why is it a modality. I'd obviously heard so much about it because it really is one of those modalities that's held with so much acclaim because of its amazing potential for healing. So I'm really excited to get into that and understand a little bit about some of the ideas behind it, the theory, where it came from, how it was all developed. So I'm really looking forward to
Yeah.
that. And before we dive in, I just want to ask you, you mentioned that you went to San Francisco to study drama therapy. If you could tell me why you decided to kind of go on that journey and tell me a little bit about drama therapy. What is that as a modality?
Sure. So I grew up in a home, in quite a spiritual but artistic kind of home. So my mum was always into like Eastern philosophy, and she was an artist. And so I kind of, I had an interest in, and I also was very interested in people. And I went to UCT, and I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to study, but I was sitting in the religious studies class on the first day of the first year of university, and someone came in and said, "No, you have to come to the drama to the drama class." I said, "Okay." So they pulled me out of religious studies and put me in drama. And I had such a good time there. I just had such a healing time, actually. It was, it's like it combined all the arts. It brought in storytelling and embodiment and poetry and music and movement. So I did 3 years of that. And there was this kind of blossoming in a way of the idea of process theater and then like therapeutic theater. And there was a whole group of people that were interested in drama therapy, but it wasn't available in South Africa. So I went overseas I went looking around, and I went to the University of New York, and I said to them, what is drama therapy? Like, how do I get here? And they said to me, well, you need some more life experience, and then you can come back because you've got to apply with, a little bit more under your belt. So I went back and I did an honors in drama in education. And then I taught for a couple of years as a teacher. And I just realized that I really wanted to be close to people's journeys. I wanted to be able to not just advise from a distance, but like really get in close. So I ended up going to the San Francisco University because it was transpersonal. There was all these incredible people there, like Stan Groff, who's the father of holotropic breath work, was teaching there, and Rick Tarnas is this like famous astrologer, and like all these incredible 60s children that like they sponsored ayahuasca studies, and like it was just an amazing place to do my master's. And yeah, then I came back to South Africa, and there was just a small group of people that went overseas, and slowly to different places, just because it wasn't available in South Africa. And eventually we kind of all trickled back, coming back with the trainings. So I was there, I did a 4 years master's. And then I was an orphan. I was a drama therapy orphan in South Africa. So there was nobody else, everyone was like, there was no seniors, there was no adults. There was just me, like a little brand new, what do you like, first day out of graduate school or whatever. I'm probably jumping ahead, but because I can't even remember what the question was, whether it was what is drama therapy or how I got into it. Maybe you can remind me, because I can keep going, because there was a link to the family constellations there, but we can get there. It's up to you.
I think for the time being, just some clarity around drama therapy. How does that play out? What does that what does that mean? I was a drama kid at school, and so it was also a big tool for me to express myself, really step into who I am, and to play and have fun. We used to do exercises where you would, and really just play around, laugh. And when I look back on school, it's funny because drama, I always say drama prepared me for life like nothing else did. I learned in drama, I learned how to speak, I learned philosophy. I mean, we were doing Waiting for Godot and things like that when I was at such a young age, and I was getting exposed to these really powerful ideas. So I understand drama, therapy, sort of, but how do they fit together?
They fit together in a lot of different ways, and there's many different modalities. So people, have taken different aspects of theatre and sort of used them therapeutically. Like, for example, you can use mask work to sort of name different aspects of you, and then you can use a mask to sort of speak from that perspective. So you can use that mask work to sort of name like your inner characters, and then you get to do integration work with all these inner voices. There's many different ways of using drama therapy, and I've done it sort of, I can't even think now, over 20 years. But the main thing is that it is a creative way to externalize aspects of what's going on inside of you. So instead of sitting with the story in you, you try and find ways, sort of creative ways, to put it outside of you. And then you can experience it, embody it, speak as it, enact it, your inner world. And then you look for changes in perspective. So if you go into a role reversal, which is like see something from the opposite person's perspective, then you can re-internalize your story with a greater, understanding. So that's, it's just some of the ways. It's quite a big practice.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. And I can see how that very much aligns then with what I saw and experienced during that family constellation. So could you go into maybe explain how you got from drama therapy, from the San Francisco, and then sort of bringing in family constellations, which actually also does have a bit of a root, which I'm sure we'll get into later, in South Africa and in
that's where it's from. That's where the marriage between but so we'll go there. So I arrived back in sort of 2003, 2004. So that's like 22 years ago. And there wasn't drama therapy here yet, as I was saying. it's like I was drama therapy plus a few others that were also arriving back. And so I couldn't get, guidance anywhere. So I looked around for community, and what I found was family constellations trainings here. And so I joined them, and it became the backbone of my practice. I loved it. I really, really loved it. And so I did two-year trainings in a row, and then other trainings, shamanic constellations and all sorts of things. So the second question was about, what is it about? Is that what you want to know? Like, to give an intro.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm like, what is the word constellate? What does that mean? And family constellations then as a practice and a modality. Can you explain some of the
Sure.
theory
So
around?
family constellations came from a guy called Bert Hellinger, who was a German who came to South Africa in the 50s, I think it was. And he was interested in sort of bringing religion, I think, to South Africa. And he ended up working with a group of Zulus, traditional wisdom practitioners. And he was with them for about 17 years. And he ended up sort of giving up just using all of the African traditional wisdom practices and taking them slowly but surely back to Germany and hybridizing basically like the Sangoma practice with some of what was happening in Europe at the time. So it was like existentialism, phenomenology, and now, but it kept its basic ideas, which was this sense of the knowing field, this knowing field. So everyone can tap into a knowing field, what Rupert Sheldrake, who's a scientist, calls the morphogenetic field or the morphic field of consciousness. So there's this idea of, how the Sangomas talk to the ancestors, and work with ancestral healing in order to bring a change to the person who's seeing them. In the same way, family constellations, the traditional family constellations, works with the lineage of who came before you and what the history is of your sort of genetics, you could say. And then if there are big traumas or nobody's done any work on owning any part of their story or dealing with their traumas, you can use a traditional constellation to make quite big changes to that field. And people, some people find it difficult to understand initially how you can actually be in touch with the ancestors, your actual ancestors, through a constellation. But that is a living field. You actually are inviting them in, and they actually do show up. And the people that are in the constellation have an opportunity to sort of kind of, you could say, give voice to what they are picking up about the role or the ancestor that they are playing. So that's a little bit of it, a little bit of an introduction to it. There's a lot more to say, but that, I don't know if that gives you a sense of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the powerful lessons that I've learned from African spirituality is just this idea of the importance of that sort of ancestral chain rather. And us living in South Africans as people of European descent, we are so disconnected from that lineage. So on my mom's side of the family, her family moved here, I think 6 generations ago. and that history is so well kept. And I know all of those ancestors. But then on my dad's side, his parents moved from England. I don't know his grandparents' names.
Mm.
So you become very disconnected from your lineage. And it was an incredibly healing thing for me to see as I started opening my eyes to this understanding of African spirituality and spending time in communities where people actually still cared for and looked after their sort of living ancestors and their lineage. Their grandparents lived in the same house as them, even great grandparents. Everybody looked after each other. It wasn't the same this thing that I see in my community, which is when the old get old, we kind of ship them off to the kind of old age homes and never hear from them again.
Mm.
And that really inspired me to start looking at my own lineage and my own that sort of chain, that transmission from generation to generation, and starting to understand. I guess it became a tool for understanding myself. And it's really weird the similarities when I learn about other ancestors. And I love gardening, for instance. And my grandfather loved gardening. My mom's father was into leather work. I've got this interest in leather work and these kind of abilities. So yeah, I want to ask you about, so we inherit these things, and part of that is just our genetics. Um, we could get more spiritual about that and like pass down traumas and all these sorts of things, but we inherit, who we are is very much a product of our ancestors who've come before us and the work that we've done. And we're kind of now sitting in that situation where we've got everything from them, the blessings, but also those shadow aspects and unfinished businesses that they had, um, things that they never dealt with. And yeah, how do you understand this kind of ancestral transmission that sort of gets handed down, and then we find ourselves now in 2026, and a lot of these patterns are still repeating. So I just
Okay.
want you to speak into that, this idea of these things that get handed down, and how do we as individuals really come to terms with this or work with it, especially when we do have disconnected lineages.
So I've got a different position. I have come very much with my own practice. And I come with the belief that we choose our family and we choose our parents and we choose the line that we come into based on what it is that we are wanting to be learning in this life. So we have a frequency based on what it is that we have attained in our previous lives, and our soul reviews before this life and sets a kind of criteria around what it is that you want, and then you get an opportunity to choose a lineage, and that lineage will package just exactly the things that it is that you are needing to work with. So the whole idea of ancestors sort of stuff coming forward, for me, I work with it in a different way. I work with it in that this is an opportunity for you to grow as a soul, to find out where it is that you are taking on other people's stuff. So, but also to take responsibility for your own journey. So I don't, it's like it's a nuanced, for me, it's a bit of a nuanced practice. I like to make sure that the person that's working is very empowered and that they don't feel victimized, that they've come into this terrible family and, and it's all on top of them. And yeah, so there is ancestral trauma that gets passed down through the lineage, and that is the traditional work to identify what is being passed through, and to figure out what you're carrying that doesn't belong to you. That those are all parts of the work. But you will find that it's all linked to your own lessons as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's big conversations to have about these things. I mean, they're not simple practices. Yeah.
Yeah, and family constellation seems to be, yeah, it seems to be a very powerful tool. I mean, when we were just sitting there beforehand, people were sharing some of the experiences that they'd had through their own constellations and then even through other people's constellations. And there was like job stuff, healing money wounds. And then there was also, somebody said that it healed their sinus for instance. And
Yeah. Cat
so
allergy.
yeah, like allergies. So how does it work? If we can get to it, how does it bring that healing? Like, what is the processes, the physical happening, that allows for these great healings?
So you are a sea of information with different frequencies. And you bring a very specific set of codes that codes your field. Okay, so we live in this field of consciousness. And so if anyone is interested in the science, you can look at like Rupert Sheldrake's work on the morphogenic or morphogenetic field. And he said he's done a lot of interesting work, but basically he says it's the field that codes the way things grow. Okay. So, and each person brings a field of information, field of ideas, a field of programs that they've put into their head. And some, like you say, is that they've sort of taken in through their families, say, propensities and stuff like that. So what it is to figure out what it is that a person is bringing and to find the different aspects of that problem, put it out through different role plays. They're called in family constellations, they're called representatives. And in much the same way as I was talking about earlier with the externalization of something that's going on in you, you put aspects outside and then you give representatives in the room a space to sort of tap into that coded field of memory, really. What it is that they can pick up about the situation. They're tapping into this memory field, this giant memory field that is alive. It's a living field. And they will report what it is that they're picking up back into the group. And then between myself and the person who's coming to do the work, we have to try and figure out what is the alchemy that needs to happen here. What is being rejected that should belong? Where's there, like, for example, they talk about hierarchy in family constellations. which is like, you know, have you taken someone's place that maybe is missing, that you shouldn't be in, for example. Like if somebody dies or somebody gets divorced, often the child moves to fill that place, and then they're not in their right place. They're trying to be the dad to the mom instead of the child, you know. And so you sort of make adjustments to this field, this internalized field of consciousness. And it goes back inside a person with, they go in with a different viewpoint. So I don't know if did I give you guys the stained glass window metaphor at the workshop?
No.
So your brain, your beliefs, and your understanding of yourself, your self-identity is made up of like all these thoughts, right? And that creates like almost like a stained glass window effect. So if you imagine stained glass windows in a church and the sun is, or a temple or whatever, the sun is shining through it, that particular image, and on the floor is the reflection. And you looking through that window and you're looking down at the reflection, you say, oh, that's beautiful, or I don't like that, or whatever. But you're basically looking at the reflection. Now, that's fine. If you don't like, it's fine if you like the reflection, but if you don't like the reflection, what do? Well, you can't change it outside of you. You can't do anything about the reflection out there. So you have to come back to where the reflection's coming from. It's coming from your thoughts, your belief systems, your internalized ideas, stuff that's been taught to you. And, you know, that's why we put that out, so that we can look at it and say, okay, here's your stained glass window through which you're looking. Here it is. Let's look at it. Let's put it out here. Let's tap into it. Let's recode it. Let's do a whole lot of things so that you can have a whole new belief system. So we're shifting your window so that by the time you've internalized something else, the work that you've done, your window through which you're looking is completely different, and your reflection in the world will be different. So that's a little bit of an idea.
Yeah. So it's kind of, you know, if you've got this issue or this repeating pattern that, you know, I'll say like a 3D shape, for instance. And now I can only see this thing from one perspective. It's, even though it's a 3D shape, it's going to be I'm going to see it as a 2D image. So we're essentially getting other people to occupy then other positions around this issue so that you can start to see a more 3D image. You can start to more clearly see what the actual you know, what this thing, you know, what this thing is.
Yeah, and you're trying to unpack it. You're trying to decode it so that you can recode it. You know, you're getting like, so for example, you can tap into anything. Anything has information in it. So if you have a health issue, for example, you can get someone to be your heart, someone to be your brain, someone to be your soul, someone to be your, you know, the answer, the solution. You know, all this information is available, and you let the aspects speak. You let the codes come through so that you can get the information. And then once you've got it, you can put it back together. Yeah. And it goes back, you know, in a different way.
Yeah.
So it is like a 3D, yeah, like a more 5D.
Yeah. There are a couple other dimensions involved there.
Yeah, there's quite a few other dimensions for sure. But I mean, I suppose, when people say, how does it work? I say to people, I talk about quantum physics, like I give people a little bit of an overview of quantum physics. And do you know about quantum physics? Do you know anything?
Yeah, I understand that everything has some relation to something else, that particles on one side of the earth can affect particles on the other side of the earth on that exact same like split second, at the exact same moment. So not too in depth, but I kind of understand the premise, basically that everything is interconnected.
Yeah, that's right. So basically, there's four. Quantum physics was what sort of got just after Einstein died. It was like 100 or so years ago is when quantum physics was really discovered. And he was just on the edge of it. Like when he was saying, does God play dice? He was just on the edge of sort of that discovery. But basically, it's when scientists started to look deeper than the atom. So the atom was all linear physics and everything was solid, and there was just this physical dimension, and studying that for a long time. But they started to look into the atom. And what they found was all these subatomic particles, tiny little particles that had all different behaviors. And they started to study the behavior, and they came out with like 4 different laws of the behavior of these subatomic particles. And they pertain to how constellations works, or how any sort of spiritual esoteric work works. So the one law is the idea of entanglement. And entanglement says that any little tiny invisible subatomic particle that comes together with another one and kind of interacts with it, it exchanges information with the other one. And then wherever it goes, anywhere in space, they're basically imprinted onto each other. And so I like to say to people, the law of entanglement is quite an important one, because we are kind of like giant particles, and how you get entangled or coded, and with what information you get coded or imprinted, is what becomes your reality. So you want to entangle essentially with the right information, with the right people, with the right kind of direction. So entanglement is this almost like entrainment process of your reality. It's how we are continually being imprinted.
Yeah.
So entanglement is one. The observer effect is an important one. Law of quantum physics. And the observer effect was when the scientists they were shooting tiny particles through the double slit experiment, through these 2 slits, and then they were putting a little eye. They were looking out for the particles on the one slit, and when they looked there, more went there. When they looked there, more went there.
Yeah.
So they started to realize that where we look and what we think and what we expect has an impact on reality. And so we need to learn to measure for and look for what it is that we want, not what we don't want. These kinds of, applications. So the observer effect is huge, because we're always in effect with the observer effect. It's one of the underlying laws of all spiritual work. We are the observers on this quantum field, organizing things based on what it is that we're thinking. So that's an important one. The dual nature of reality says that light, dual nature of light, says that light is both a wave and a particle. So nothing is really solid. Everything can be undone. Things
Yeah.
can move from a wave into a particle based on the observer. So as you think, so it becomes. So you have to learn about the power of your thoughts over time, that kind of thing. Just trying to think. Oh, non-locality is the fourth one, the last one. Non-locality is this idea that even though something's not physically there in front of you, we still have access to it. Non-locality means that we're actually connected at a 0-point energy field.
Mm.
And so we're connected to everything, everywhere, and we have access to it. We just have to pay our attention or put our observer onto what it is that we want to look at, and that observer starts to work. It starts with all these, tuning in to what it is that we're wanting to observe. So that's the how, in a way. That's the how. And so you got to know what you're doing with those things. But yeah, I don't know if that helps a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, as you're describing these things, it's so interesting because, and I think this is really why we are living in such an exciting time, is because I guess science is catching up. All of those things that all those
Yeah.
things that you spoke about, those are all spiritual principles that they were studying in India,
Forever and the Vedas. Yeah, exactly.
um, yeah, all of those things, but it's just now coming into a language where we can start to, understand it because, our scientific brains that we've been brought up with, it can make it really difficult to kind of entertain these modalities because in my head that just does it doesn't make sense. I mean, I'd studied science up until honors, and I wanted to believe in higher powers. I wanted to believe in these things, but I just couldn't. I you know I and when I eventually sort of had these kind of experiences and I was like, oh wait, this there is something here through a physical spiritual experience, then and that's when everything started to open up, and for me it feels like there was a void, an empty void within me that has now been filled by magic and wonder and just excitement for life. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for kind of bringing that in and scientifically explaining
Yeah,
spirituality.
there's amazing science out there. I mean, I've been learning from this unified field physicist and quantum biologist. His name's William Brown, for quite a long time. And he, just listening to him speak for me is like, it's all the when you move out of the heavy, dense sort of physical realm, you move into what David Bohm, who was also a physicist, quantum physicist, calls the implicate order. Implicate is like the tiny little, it's the realm of consciousness. It's all the subtle bodies. And it's bliss. It's absolute bliss there. It's just when things get dense and heavy, and we're in a very, very slow vibration here on this earth and in our
Mm.
physical bodies, that we forget that.
Yeah, and just so isolating where you feel like you're on your own and you have to carry this weight and there's there's nobody else and there's nothing else. Whereas there's kind of been these systems that these these systems of understanding in the past, mythologies. I'm reading Joseph Campbell at the moment, and he's talking about the importance of mythology in understanding. And now you're starting to explain that in a scientific language, understanding these processes. But mythology was always kind of explaining those through stories, through yeah, just a different understanding of the world when they didn't have these, these fancy words to kind of explain everything. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, so I want to speak to you because you've sat with a unbelievable elder, and that is Baba Credo Mutwa, who
Mm.
wrote Indaba My Children, which is the most unbelievable book where he basically writes down. So he was, and yeah, please correct me if I'm getting any of this wrong, but he was the storyteller from the Zulu lineage, and he was born to occupy that position that was handed down to him. And so from a young age, he was taught the oral history of the Zulu nation. And so he wrote this book, and it is fascinating from the it starts with, how the world was created and all these different stories, how instruments were created, where music comes from, when white people came to Africa, and just all of these amazing stories. And he had to remember them in such detail as well, that it was very much ensured that these were kept as original as possible. And so when he wrote Indaba My Children, he did that because he wanted to share that story, because it was an oral tradition. So it had never been written down. But then, yeah, he actually took the time to write that down so that people like myself who are interested in these things and didn't have that mythology, weren't brought up with fireside stories explaining these things, can kind of engage with that. So yeah, please, if you can express, I mean, how did you come into contact with him? And um, yeah, and what were some of the experiences of sitting with somebody who held was the physical, I guess a physical library, a knowledge keeper like
Yeah,
that.
record keeper. Yeah. So I was with him twice. It was long ago. It was an amazing experience. Um, Hard to put into words. So I went to Kuruman, which is where he was, which is sort of like the third eye of South Africa. You drive right into the middle at the top. If you imagine South Africa like a face, he's there. And it's just a mind-boggling experience to sit with this guy who's the record keeper of Africa, the Sanusi, head Sanusi, which is like, he's been passed down so much information in so many different ways. Like, I think, many extraterrestrial experiences and downloads on so many different levels. So he just would give one oral story, one unbelievable piece of history of Africa after the next that you would just never hear from anyone else. I mean, you could just sit with him for months, for years, and you would never get to the end of his stories. So, I mean, it's a big loss that he is no longer here. But, the stories can be, like we know with the technology of family constellations, you can still, if you want to, do downloads, access the field, access the information. You just have to intend it. So things are no longer really ever gone. It's
Yeah.
just the embodiment. It does help, though. But
Mm.
he told stories of Mama Africa. I was particularly interested in seeing him because I was interested in the Adam's calendar, the stone circle that's known as Adam's calendar by Michael Tellinger. And I think, I can't remember when the first time was that I went to see him. I think it was somewhere around 2008. And I don't remember the order, but I went to see him to ask him about the calendar, basically. And he just said, you know, it's because he used to use it before Michael was even there. And there's this ancient tradition that they would use it as an initiation site. And he said it's a female site, it's a female portal. And there was all these incredible stories. I mean, he just said he's got so much love for Africa and the feminine. And so, yeah, I just went to listen to him. So many stories. He just said, you know, religion has demonized women and has demonized things like snakes. And he said women and snakes, they go together. And I think we were talking about Mary Magdalene and whether she actually, you know, came down as far as South Africa. And, you know, wow. It was all sorts of just wonderful, deep conversations.
Sure. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, interesting you bring that up. I just had I was talking to somebody earlier today and I told them so yeah, myself and Amanda, we share a birthday, which is on the 12th of December. So the 12th of the 12th. And he said, "Oh, are you Catholic?" And so I said, "No." But he said that the 12th of December is the Virgin Mary. So Jesus's mother's birthday. And so it's quite a sacred.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. A portal, 12-12.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Yeah, but I wanted to ask you, what's the resonance of the 12 for you? Obviously it's quite a powerful number, 12 months of the year, 12 zodiacs. Yeah, how do you make sense of the number and just of numbers in general?
So apparently Adam's calendar is the 12th stargate on the planet. And so I just wondered why I was in South Africa and, you know, what the reason is here of all places. So there's a 12th stargate and I've, you know, done quite a lot of work there. And I don't know, I've always just loved the 12-12, but I don't, there's also like work around the 12 strands of DNA that, you know, were sort of put into disarray by the Anunnaki. Do you know much about the history of the Anunnaki?
Yes. Yeah, from the Credo Mutwa, Michael Tellinger.
Yes. Yeah. So they were the geneticists, especially Mammy, who was the female geneticist of the human sort of race, well, about 500,000 years ago, actually. And they suppressed, not all of them, I mean, it's a long story, but they suppressed a lot of the active genes because one faction of the Anunnaki wanted to create a slave race. And they wanted them to mine for gold here. And so they, you know, they made sure that the DNA was just 2 strands active. And in actual fact, we've got, you know, all these subtle body strands, 12 strands of DNA, and that's what we're busy trying to bring online again. So all the discoveries about, you know, opening up all these frequency portals that are the subtle energy portals is what we're busy doing at the moment. And yeah, I have also had the privilege of being at a spiritual school with a teacher. My teacher, Ramsa, was the teacher. And, I was taught also a lot about not just, a lot of the time we're sort of trapped in this visible spectrum of light, and people don't think beyond it. They don't realize that actually we exist in this full spectrum, this
Yeah.
full light spectrum, not just the visible light spectrum. If you look at the full light spectrum, the visible light spectrum is very, very small.
Yeah.
And that's, the rainbow. And we exist way beyond the rainbow.
Mm.
So obviously it's important to, to bring new systems through for people so that they can expand and like plug in into new places. And so, all of these kinds of things, I guess, link with the awakening of the 12 thing. But I also don't think it's the end. I don't think 12 is the end. I think there's a 13 portal, and I think like the 12 houses in astrology, apparently there was a 13th house, and it's been placed in, I can't remember the exact name. Yeah, and so it's like 13 is the door to the next dimension sort of thing.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, it's so fascinating. So yeah, so something I want to ask you about, which is like, so part of the experience that I had when I was part of that constellation,
Yeah.
and also kind of integrating this as well, is around the masculine. As you mentioned with what Credo Mutwa was sharing about how Christianity really has removed the feminism, the feminine, has blamed the feminine, victimized the feminine, and the system of patriarchy that has been ruling on this planet. And so I've been opening myself up to, people have been talking about times before, when there were matriarchal systems, and there's almost this clear sort of division between the warlike tribes, which are patriarchal tribes, and peaceful hunter-gathering matriarchal tribes. So when I was sitting in this constellation and I was representing various masculine um, representatives in this family. And what I noticed, so everybody that was looking at me, that was another representative, I could just see this trauma and this deep wounding from towards the masculine. And now what I've been opening myself up to, which is this idea that there is a sort of this masculine kind of agenda that has been trying to dominate the planet. And I've been linking this to a group of extraterrestrials, reptilians. That's been coming into my field, that has been occupying the Earth for a while now, and oppressing. Earth is a very, Mother Earth is this feminine energy, and has been oppressing the Earth for, I don't know for how long now. But I was speaking to somebody else about this, and they said you should talk to Amanda. So I guess that's what I'm wanting to ask. As a young man in this world, feeling this and being a part of that oppressive force, and so not wanting to, because I've been in places of guilt and shame around my identity, as a white heterosexual man. And that led me it led me astray, and it led me down these dark rabbit holes. And so how do we not go into the shame, the guilt as men, Geez, I'm asking so many questions here.
We need another podcast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
answer what resonates, but basically, what do you see as the healing for the masculine right now?
So I think it's one person at a time, and I think that it's there's no like standard answer for everybody. I think everybody's soul has a different trajectory in terms of what it is that they need, and you know yeah, so I don't like to generalize. I think that on the whole, there's so much disclosure, so many reveals that are coming up. I think that you speak about the whole reptilian agenda, and I think that understanding that can also, like, sure, what can I say? Sure, it's such a complicated thing. I want to say relieve a bit of guilt, because it's not necessarily the men. It's that the earth was under attack and under an imprisoned system, and was very heavy programming that was going in to everybody. So it was like almost like an impossible situation. So what can I say? Like, people have to unlearn huge chapters of history. I don't necessarily think it's really about blaming yourself. I think it's more about educating yourself and opening yourself to really like vast new perspectives and new histories, and find out about all these pieces of history that like have been undisclosed. It's we are not who we have thought were. We like really not. So it's like, I don't know, do the work, find out about all these things. And I would not say necessarily carry the guilt. I don't know. I don't know. I would have to just do individual inquiries with individual people to give a more specific answer than that. But yeah, there was a lot of targeting and wounding that was handed to people. And so just find out whether your shirt belongs to you.
Yeah.
Like, if it doesn't, hand it back. Maybe it's a non-species, not your species issue.
Yeah.
That's more of like a galactic constellation.
Yeah. Um, yeah, thanks, Amanda. And yeah, so that I guess kind of getting into to the next question, which is how do we integrate this? You go through a family constellation, you see it unfold, you understand, okay, this isn't me. You can see clearly, okay, this was handed down. How do we then integrate that? Because today everybody is getting very excited about modalities, spiritual experience. But at the end of the day, you come back to yourself as you are. And yeah, sometimes I think sometimes people are just looking for that experience to get outside of themselves, to forget, who they are. So how do we basically bring this in and really, yeah, really embody this wisdom? How does it actually change our life? How does it stop us from repeating these patterns?
So, I mean, I've been on the spiritual path for a long time, 20, nearly 30 years, and I can tell you it's practice and it's effort and it's keep engaging what your practice is, and you move towards something and then you digest it and you internalize it. So it's a lot of work. It's, you know, endless inquiry and or rest. Maybe you need rest period, or maybe you need to stop inquiring. It just really depends on you, you know. It takes years and years and years and years for deep transformation to take place. For some people, other people have come in, you know, the next generation. They've got their new codes in place. They don't need to go back to the past. They don't need to do that work anymore. So then we go forward, you know, go parallel lives. We go to space. We start to have fun. You don't have to necessarily. A lot of the past work has been done for some people. So yeah, there's no quick formula. There's just what resonates with you. The process of, if you do come in and you've chosen like heavy genetics and heavy lessons, then, you know, you have to just do the work of looking at your limited thoughts, finding ways, practitioners, people to help you. And, you know, I don't do one-off constellations. I see clients, I see people in a journey, I see them before, do the constellation, see them afterwards, see how they're integrating. Yeah, the alchemist's journey, you know, it's sometimes it's a lifetime of work.
Yeah, yeah. And so for me, I've been very much in it, you know, I think because of being born into the patriarchal system and all this imprinting around men not expressing, not feeling emotions, not really being in the body. And so yeah, I've really felt just to feel these things, just to really like sit with that and kind of like just feel it in the body, not try to label it, not try to blame ancestral lineages for these things, but yeah, sort of sit and kind of be with that. And I know that you've also got an understanding of we had a little conversation around that, and you were saying that the sort of feeling is not necessarily what you are working with. So maybe just getting into why why you think that, and what you feel is kind of necessary.
Yeah, so for me, the family constellations modality is not around, it doesn't pursue, you know, the emotional catharsis at all. For me, it's like, it's more like, get the downloads, get the insights, get the, you know, and so the emotions can come when something like clicks into place. So I'm not looking for that. I'm not trying for that. It's a natural byproduct of when someone starts feeling supported, right, or the natural sort of orders of love or flow of love starts happening in the family. So that's more what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this flow that might have gone out. And what is it that I can do to help a person come back into the right order in their system? And then that will naturally bring them back to their natural state of sort of like feeling and healing, that kind of thing. But that's not my goal. My goal is, you know, where are you at? Where do you want to be? How are we going to get you there? Let's look at where are you in your family system? What's presenting? Like, let's sort some let's sort your inner positioning out in your family, or in your inner system. It doesn't have to be your family. It's also your inner world.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Amanda. I think what I saw, in that space, and also just just getting to know you is sort of the just the compassion, that you do have, and how you show up in those spaces, and something that this term that like people, I hear people talk about, which is basically sort of holding space for another person. And so it's a very, I'd say a very challenging thing to do, to not bring your story in, to not project onto another person, really sit with them and really be focused on their story and their journey and their healing. And so there's a lot of young people who are not sure kind of where to go, in their life, but they feel they want to make a difference, and they want to, they want to heal the world, they want to make a difference, they want to help people. And I've been in that place, and I was severely humbled by the world. It all brought me back internally, which is that the work is within myself. Is that I don't need to heal anybody else. It's all internal work that I need to sit with. I need to sit with myself, and and sitting with people like yourself, with people who have really worked this journey, and sort of humbling yourself as well, because 5 years ago when this journey started, I really thought I knew everything. And that's just the way the spiritual journey seems to go, where it's like early in the journey, you really do feel like you know everything, and life is going to humble you, and you are going to go through some very challenging lessons that are going to bring you, I guess, a bit closer to kind of integrating this full picture. But yeah, so for you, some advice, for myself, but for other young people who have this desire to hold space, to work with people, to bring transformation, to bring in a new earth. What advice do you have for them? It's kind of a difficult question, because everyone's like,
different. Yeah. I mean, so follow your intuition, find good teachers. Don't be afraid to ask someone about someone's experience. It's important to learn from people that have experience, and do your own work. Don't bypass, by looking after other people and not yourself. I mean, I think depending on what it is that people are wanting to come into, like, I think it's really great to find trusted sources and ask, and participate and do the inner work, like you say. It takes a long time to really, really grow spiritually, really deeply, and having a space to hold that, having someone or a teacher to hold that and just help you through, like, passageways. That's, even if they're shorter ones, like, find someone you want to learn from for a little period of time, and then you can change and then find someone else. I don't know, what do you think, David? How should the youngsters of today, I mean, it's quite an a different world, I guess, that people are coming into now than I'm, in my 50s, and you are, what, 30? So, it's a different generation. Like, how are you guys doing? Do you need some help?
Yeah, no,
Do you
no,
need a
we,
lifeline?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's so crazy. I mean, even if I look at now, I mean, yeah, I'm 29. I'm not 30 yet, so just for clarity.
You're on your Saturn return.
Yeah, exactly. I'm in it.
We're crushing.
Yeah, and even what I see, where I see young people coming in nowadays, and people getting out of matric. I mean, it's almost, like 10 years younger than me, and just complete like different experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess for me the lesson has just been like discernment, and has been, yeah, I think I oftentimes, you see, the society now is so focused on immediate gratification, and we want things now. And that's been the hardest thing for me to come to terms with, is actually, this life is long. And when you go for the immediate gratification, when you go for that thing because it's there right now and you can have it right now, it always feels like a trap. It always feels like it's not the right way. So yeah, I guess that's discernment, really learning to trust that inner voice that's guiding you on this journey. And yeah, just
Yeah.
to try and have fun and try and enjoy, because I think that is really, it can get so serious, and yeah, the world's just in such a heavy, heavy, heavy place at the moment. And if
It's
we
going
can't
to get
enjoy.
better. We've got good things happening.
Yeah,
Really
exactly.
good things. Yeah. I think a lot of what makes it seem heavy is perspective, right? So people look through their window and then they feel their thoughts and they think, oh God, the world's coming to an end, or whatever it is that you're thinking. But it's not, that's just your window. And so, look for the inspired people. I mean, it's really important to have good mentors. Really look for who your mentors are and learn from them and study with them, and that kind of thing, because the world is actually in the brink of a massive, we're going through a massive awakening. We're going into like this higher frequency. Things are speeding up. Consciousness is moving a frequency band up. Disclosures happening. It's all good. It's all really exciting. So it's all on time.
Yeah. No, thank you, Amanda. Thank you for
All
the
right. Pleasure. Thank you.
um, yeah, I've learned so much in this conversation, and yeah, just grateful for you as a
You
human
as
being,
well. You as well.
the work you're doing, and yeah, really, really excited. If people want to get hold of you, or they want to engage a little bit with your work, yeah, where can they find you? How can they get in contact?
So I think the main contact is through my website, which is amandagifford.co.za. And I've got an Instagram channel, mu_Gifford, Gifford. And come and join a constellation. We want to take this, have fun, like play. It's such an amazing time to be alive. Let's have fun. Let's be together.
Blessings. Amazing. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Amanda.
You as well, David. Thank you. Go well. Bye.